Hello, everybody. This is Darren here for a little look at the lectionary gospel text coming up on Sunday. It's Matthew 24 through 39 in chapter 10. So we'll be looking at that in just a minute. And then when Mark hops on here, we're going to do a little talk about discipleship and resistance. Mark has a few reflections, especially thinking about it being Juneteenth today. So we will get into that in just a minute. I think I'll start by reading some of the text here, because we probably won't get too much into the first few verses here. But Matthew 10:24, starting in 24. A disciple is not above the teacher, nor a slave above the master. It is enough for the disciple to be like the teacher and the slave like the master. If they have called the master of the house Beelzebub, how much more will they malign those of his household? So Jesus has just been involved in telling them about coming persecutions, sends them out on a mission, and just before this has had arguments with religious leaders, basically saying, as you go out among the people, don't be surprised if they treat you the same way they treated me. So that makes sense. All right, I see Mark is here. Hey, Mark, how are you?
Hey, happy Juneteenth.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much. You too. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right. I'll go ahead and finish these. Well, maybe what I think I'll read this 26 through 32 and see if there's anything we want to say about that, and then maybe I'll read the rest of it after that. So have no fear of them, for nothing is covered up that will not be uncovered, and nothing secret that will not become known. What I say to you in the dark, tell in the light. What you hear whispered, proclaim from the housetops. Do not fear those who kill the body, but cannot kill the soul. Rather fear the one who can destroy both soul and body in hell. Are not 2 sparrows sold for a penny? Yet not one of them will fall to the ground apart from your Father. And even the hairs of your head are counted. So do not be afraid. You are of more value than many sparrows. Everyone, therefore, who acknowledge me before others, I will acknowledge before my Father in heaven. But whoever denies me before others, I will deny before my Father in heaven. All right.
All right.
You got your shirt and everything.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I have my shirt. I was wearing it proudly yesterday and today. So yeah.
I have my shirt from I was in a parade here in town.
Oh really? Y'all had a parade in your area?
Yeah, but I wore it. I wore the shirt 2 days in a row, so I better not grab it back out again. So,
yeah, this has been my last day. Though. Go in the washer.
Yeah.
for next event.
Yeah, it was actually the first year that we've had a parade for Juneteenth. They have, for I don't know how long. Maybe it hasn't been too long, but for a while they've had a celebration at a community center in town. But this year was the first year that they had a parade, and so I marched with this or walked with this group called Expo, which is ex-incarcerated people.
Wow.
Organizing. That's who. Yeah.
Okay.
And so so we had a good you walked out and handed out literature and that sort of thing. So
yeah,
good stuff.
Yeah. And no, my concern is that I think CNN's here to do a special concert on Juneteenth in a few minutes. And there's been some celebrations, excuse me, all around Richmond. I guess my concern is just like with Black History Month, that we have this wonderful day, a wonderful weekend of events, but then we go back and things just go back to normal with a little fanfare. Okay, We've had Juneteenth. You had your day. Let's get back to life as normal.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'll a couple. Well, of course, a couple. I mean, everybody except for one of the other people I think that I was marching or walking with were all formerly incarcerated people.
Yeah.
And we kind of walk through the downtown, which is pretty small, and then we kind of walk down by the lake. And so as you kind of get out of downtown and move by the lake, you go through some pretty nice neighborhoods.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people were out on their porch waving and stuff. And one of the guys that was walking next to us, said, we're getting a lot of fake love today. I mean,
Yeah.
you don't know whether you want to be coming back through the same neighborhood, next week.
Next week. Yeah.
You don't want to, but right now you're getting, waves and water bottles. But yeah. No, I mean, you're right. It's always well, I mean, once they make something a federal holiday, it takes on all the federalness.
Yeah.
I mean,
I just I posted on Facebook a while ago. I mean, we appreciate America. You give us a holiday, but that still doesn't mean we're going to give you a pass on being honest about who you are in your history.
Right.
It's like we want to go back. Okay, let's go back to the status quo and let's go back to the way things were before Juneteenth. No, not thank you, but we still got a lot of work to do.
Yeah. Well, and I think your comments finally opened up. I had them.
And I try to do those based on how I saw the text we're looking at today and unfolding.
Yeah, I was thinking of I was just thinking. I was thinking what you were saying, especially about the idea of resistance and matching this text with Juneteenth, and especially thinking about Carter. Just always making sure to highlight to us the kind of the way that the empire works and the way that Jesus is trying to shape and mold, what's happening.
Yeah.
And I think what you're saying, when we get these holidays and they meant something and they mean something to a certain community.
Yeah.
But when they go out to the broader community, when the empire takes them over, or attempts to take them over, the meaning and things change a little bit,
and you run the risk of being co-opted.
Yeah,
to a certain extent,
exactly.
If you don't watch it, like I said, thank you for recognizing the holiday, just like thank you for recognizing Martin Luther King Day. But we still need to talk about a few things.
Right. Well, we would like to acknowledge the real king. We're thankful that you're that we're doing this, but well, and I think that to me the kind of, and I think I mentioned this last year when we in my sermon around this time, it's around this time last year, I read out the actual statement that was made in Texas. And it's just so clear from that statement, even that no one's really freeing it, to really freeing anybody, or trying to even declare, I mean, even the statement is kind of like, we're not going to be as mean as we were before, maybe, but you know what I mean? Like you're on your own, you might have certain rights or whatever, but you're on your own, And
when I was, thinking about this text, I thought about our conversation we had last week, and I think we were trying to push or get folks talking about how we get folks to rethink what discipleship really means, and I think that we're so locked into discipleship being, this idea, of course, of confession, of recognizing who Jesus is, which is fine. No issue with that. but then, you know, it means we talked about, it means you say the right things.
Right.
But to me, that is not really understanding who Jesus really was
Right.
and what he was doing. Yeah.
Right.
And so that's why I thought, you know, talking about looking at discipleship as resistance is more
Right.
aligned really of understanding who Jesus really was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think, you know, I think at least the way I've heard the Juneteenth story told
Yeah.
is almost like the way they tell the story about the some of the people on the islands in Japan,
Mm-hmm.
you know, or in the South Pacific who the war is over, but they haven't heard yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because they're so
Yeah.
far out in the, you know,
Yeah.
and so they're just kind
Yeah.
of doing their thing, and all
Yeah.
of a sudden the news comes, you know, and it's this, you know, this revelation to them. I mean,
Yeah.
the way I understand, you know, the Juneteenth story is that, I mean, you know, it wasn't a revelation to, you know, the news of what was going on in the world was not a revelation to the people in Texas.
Yeah.
You know, it was the fact that this declaration was made, you know,
Yeah.
that kind of made it official, that allowed them to celebrate in a different way, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And that goes to, I think, your point about, you know, resistance was always happening.
Right.
You know, the people
Right.
were, you know, the people were always resisting, you
Right.
know, their enslavement,
Their
resisting
enslavement
their,
and their
you know,
and the status quo. They always were. Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I
this
think
just,
sometimes we, you know, I think we have this image sometimes of the ancestors being somewhat docile and I won't say they weren't certainly were content, but
right.
didn't see any hope. But that's far from the truth. The fact that they gathered and stowed away in the bush harbors. I mean,
Right.
that was revolutionary and resistance in itself.
Right.
To carry on their practice of their religion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we just have to start rethinking this whole idea of what discipleship is. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
You know, and looking at those, you know, those first couple verses, I talked about this whole idea of hierarchy. You know, that when the comments that Jesus makes in the beginning, and you know, I want something that, you know, I hear Dr. Kenny talk about a lot. You know, he talks about how even in the church we have allowed this concept of hierarchy to seep in. That you have pastor and deacons, or you have men versus women, and that's not really what God is calling us to. He's calling us to more of a central mutuality type of relationship. But we've allowed, he calls it snakeology,
Right.
where we've allowed this concept of hierarchy, the one that for me to have power, I have to be over you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and I think I mean, it's pretty clear in these texts that we've been reading that, you know, like we've been talking about, is that, I mean, Jesus' whole idea of what it means to be the shepherd, or you know, as this text suggests, the you know, the householder or the master or whatever, you know, whatever the metaphor is being used here. Even Jesus' understanding of that is, I need you to understand who I am and how I operate in the world, because I'm going to expect you to do the same.
Right.
Like very, very soon. like even now I'm asking you to do the same.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's not, he's an exemplar of the way, not with the intention of being, you know, kind of exalted over, but it's an intention of creating multiples of it, you know, of himself. You know what I mean?
Because he said that you will do greater. So which is the idea of this mutuality, that it doesn't stop with me, that the spirit continues to move, and you will even accomplish greater things than what I have.
Mhm.
which is sort of kind of opposite sometimes of leadership today.
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, and I think, and I think this is where I get a little frustrated with, I mean, the way a lot of people see things, is that even if you want to talk about how Jesus exclusively did something, by, his death being some, some unique individual, never repeatable act, you have to always consider why it was done.
Yeah.
It was done so that we would become people who are able and have the freedom to live the way that Jesus is calling us to, the way that God is calling
Exactly.
us to.
Right.
So
Yeah.
even if you want to, have, celebrate Philippians 2, where every knee shall bow and every tongue confess, even if you want to, say that every day or whatever, it does,
Yeah.
you have to still go back to why is that the case?
Yeah.
Why was that done?
Yeah.
That was done so that we all could be, get back to our vocation as it originally was intended.
Intended. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. And I like that you emphasize resistance, here, because again, it's this tricky thing of us trying to understand these texts from the opposite, or from a total different position than the people they were being told to. I mean, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's this idea that you'll be persecuted and you need to, prepare yourself, and
Yeah.
and it's not going to be an easy road. Like, it's going to be hard. I'm basically, the way that I am being rejected and ridiculed, you should expect the same
The
if
same. Right.
if
That's
you
not going to be.
are
That's not going to be
doing what you're
easy.
supposed to
Right.
be doing.
Right.
If you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, you should expect that.
That's right.
So
Exactly.
then the flip side comes back to us to say, okay, well, if we're not experiencing that in some way, shape, or form, does that mean that we have not, we're not doing the correct thing? Or does it mean that the world has changed enough that we don't have to be in that position
Yeah.
anymore?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think
Question
that,
we have to constantly ask ourselves. Yeah. Constantly
yeah,
ask ourselves that. And I think when people think of this concept of resistance, I guess they think of something that's violent, that
Mhm.
involves confrontation, and I don't see that first century community operating in such a way. I think the reality of empire, the reality of oppression, but these folks saw themselves hearing the call of the Spirit, hearing the call of the Master, and saying that no, that we the reality is there, but we're just not going to accept that. Just like we talked about before with when Jesus called Peter the fisherman and they walked away. It was the idea that I'm not going to accept the fact that empire controls all this.
right,
Right.
right,
That resistance is also choosing. It's not
Mhm.
denying the reality, but it's saying that the reality is not the ultimate. That the
Right,
kingdom is the kingdom is indeed bigger than the reality, and the
right,
possibilities are even bigger than the reality.
right. Yeah, I would, the way that, the way that, Paulo Freire in Pedagogy of the Oppressed, puts it, is that, basically says like that, our vocation is to, I mean, he uses the word humanize. Basically, our vocation is to not only be better humans, but to make, to help people become better humans in the world.
The
That
world,
to human,
exactly.
and that there are some people who choose to dehumanize,
Yeah,
but they don't have a true vocation. Like, they are just doing a perverted thing. Like, it's not really the real world. Is the humanization people.
right.
Like, that's the reality.
Yeah,
And these people who are dehumanizing are only just negating the real world. You
Yeah.
know, it's
Yeah.
not even the real world.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know,
And in
but yeah,
text, Jesus is honest that the kingdom of God and the empire, if it's going to be, like I said, it's going to be conflict. There's going to be opposition because folks don't want to give up their power.
right.
Folks don't want to. Then again, hierarchy. I don't want to. I'm here, and I'm comfortable being here, and I don't want to give that up.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and then I guess we should now that we got this far, maybe we should read the next little bit, because that's when the
Okay.
conflict gets real, you know.
Real, yeah.
So, not peace but a sword. Do not think that I have come to bring peace to the earth. I have not come to bring peace but a sword. For I have come to set a man against his father, a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law, and one's foes will be members of one's own household. Whoever loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me, and whoever loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. And whoever does not take up the cross and follow me is not worthy of me. Those who find their life will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake will find it.
Yeah. And I think they'll talk about here Jesus speaking in language or the vernacular of hyperbole to emphasize,
Right.
that the status quo, the tradition, that the kingdom is also against, or the kingdom is bigger than the status quo, and bigger
Right.
than the traditions, the social stratus of the society and the culture. That
Right.
That the church, the new Israel, is not locked into those definitions.
Right. Right. Yeah. But it's good family values.
Yeah. That's the traditions,
Yeah. I am always reminded when I hear this, especially when I hear the sword word, I can't, it just is like a impression in my mind, not like not like a fully formed thought, but I remember Dr. Blunt lecturing on Revelation, where it talks about the sword that the sword, which is basically like the tongue, the sword comes out of Jesus' mouth, or the Son of Man's mouth,
Yeah.
like a sword, and it's like the words and the truth kind of divides people, and there's this kind of moment of what are you going to choose? What side are you going to be on? What are you going to adhere to and hold on to?
Yeah. And clearly, I guess the community of Matthew saw that that there is a choice that you have to make,
right,
and that choice may lead to some type of pain or even martyrdom.
right,
but
right.
that's the choice that we're called to.
Yeah,
we're called to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm hoping that Sunday, because Danita and Marcy and Cheryl will be here up here on
I mean, not the ordination.
installation. Yeah.
Okay.
So I've asked them already, so I'm hoping they'll help me out here. But I'm hoping to focus the little reflection for Sunday's sermon on this verse 34.
Okay.
And ask and see if they, see if we can all maybe share stories of our, lives whenever, especially through work of trying to tell the truth to each other, across racial lines and with all the histories and stuff like that. When it's times when we've had to, when it feels like we brought the sword more than the, more than the peace, or when we, or even, for me personally, just thinking about, times when I recognize that, for me to do what I was called to do, it's going to require, some operating on myself with a sword more than more than just
Wow. Yeah.
seeking peace and calm,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and I think that's a part of what we're talking about, really,
Yeah.
to follow Jesus, to be on the side of the oppressed, to see and hear the people who are suffering, and to
Yeah.
move to do something about it. Like you're saying, you have to get out of the traditions that
Right.
you're trapped in. You have
Right.
to,
Yeah.
surgically, you know, take a look, examine yourself, and remove those bits that are in the way.
Yeah. And like I said, so there are some traditions that are good. I'm not saying you have to throw away all tradition, but we just
Right.
cannot allow ourselves to be locked into tradition.
Right.
That
Right.
certainly Jesus, the disciples heard Jesus calling them not to be open to. You cannot be, if you're locked in tradition, you can't be open to possibility.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You have to approach it with an open mind and an open heart. And when you're locked in tradition, it's difficult to do that.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I'll see if I can make this segue. It's possible, maybe. The top of the shirt that I was talking about, that we wore for the during the parade for Juneteenth, from the Expo guys, the ex-incarcerated people organizing. Um, basically it said, "End mass incarceration." Um, something like 1865 and still counting. Waiting for everybody to be free. You know what I mean? So, there's a tradition even now forming, that there's a tradition that the empire is trying to form around Juneteenth, which is basically like let's see if we can get kind of like a re-up on the Emancipation Proclamation, right? So let's see if we can double down on getting kudos for passing some laws. You know what I mean? And becoming this great, all-inclusive nation. There's that tradition that's trying to be, that just falls in line with just seeing kind of America with innocent eyes, and are even putting it on a pedestal, and creating a hierarchy,
and then is the being locked in traditional viewpoints on how we see folks
right,
who have been incarcerated, how we see folks whose sexuality might not be traditional the way we would view it. I mean, this and how we view family and all that. So there's all that. There's all that. And I think what I hear Jesus saying with the sword is that we certainly want transformation to be everybody on board, but it may not be. I don't want to use the word violent, but there will be conflict,
right?
And sometimes that conflict may be unpleasant,
right? Yeah. Well, I mean, it's hard because I think if we're talking about, I guess it's clear that we as Christians have to struggle with violence, with how what violence means and how it works, and what's going on, and it's clear, this is one of the texts that that author used to create the that book that was famous about 10 years ago or so, Zealot, that tried to paint Jesus as a zealot, and not, and so coming out of that branch, and suggesting, that he was really heading in that direction, and not, a nonviolent, whatever. But it's clear that there's a much more significant nonviolent trend than not, but when we look back through history, you know, we have to acknowledge that slavery didn't end by the stroke of a pen. It
Right.
ended because the people who were just waiting for the moment that it seemed even remotely practical to rise up
Mm.
and throw off their chains did it when that moment came,
Yeah.
and yeah, you know, that slavery wouldn't have ended without that,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of, well, I think we can go back and watch the Malcolm X speech. He said it better. I mean,
Yeah.
every revolution is a violent revolution. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
no, there hasn't been one that
Well,
didn't,
that
that didn't involve,
there's always going to be some upheaval. There's always going to be
right.
some conflict,
Yeah.
and that's because those in power just don't want to give up that power.
Right.
No.
Well, in the and very specifically to this text, I mean, technically, what the church, the early church, is suggesting is that there can be some kind of nonviolent revolution.
Mm-hmm.
You can change hearts and minds. You can create a new humanity, through nonviolent means.
Exactly.
But in order to do that, everybody has to be disciplined. They have to be disciples. They have to actually, they can't just become an imperial church.
Right.
They can't just give in to, the status quo. They can't just give in to the empire.
Right.
And
that
if
requires,
it's going to work, there has to be continued struggle.
And that requires, you said, a deep, what Jesus is saying in this text, it must be a much deeper level of commitment than maybe folks are used to. And discipleship requires that much deeper level of commitment,
right?
Than what people are used to hearing or doing.
Well, and what is interesting about this text as well is that Jesus is suggesting that part of what makes that commitment possible is an abiding trust.
Mm-hmm.
That God is watching, that God is here, God is present, God is is moving and working, that what you're doing is a part of what God is calling people to do, and if you have that deep trust, the hairs on your head are counted, that even, that you're more important than the sparrow, and, all these things. If you have that trust, then you can move into these places that are difficult.
And that's why then worship is so important, because worship serves as a reminder of the presence of the love of God and the presence of the Spirit, and re-energizes us individually and as a community. So that's what so we need worship for that reminder and re-energizing of ourselves.
Right. Yeah. Well, even just seeing other people around who are in different stages of that trust, and working through it and modeling it, is important. Even to, just, I mean, I think that's why singing becomes so important and so much a part of it, because you through your voice and through your experience, you embody the trust. You really just you take it in, and you let it out at the same time. You're really moving within it.
Exactly.
I mean, I remember. I mean, there's a lot of instances of this, but you just, especially when the struggles of the people you're with, the difficult things that they're going through, and to see everyone, trusting and affirming and loving together and singing, and just, yeah, it does something to you,
Yeah, 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 yeah. It does. We have to have that. We have to have that that reminder.
Right.
And that's why the contemplative is so important, because we individually need we our hearts and our minds and our spirits, we need that.
Right.
And I know, and sometimes it's difficult to do. It is. It's a
Yeah.
challenge.
Right.
The, it seems like there's always a schedule. There's always something to do, but we have to schedule that time,
Right.
for personal reflection and
Mhm.
prayer and the contemplative.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
And I think that's something we have to. I think there's something that, in terms of the education piece, that we need to probably push and emphasize more. Um, and even find ways to let folks experience it, whether it be a personal retreat or
Right.
setting up a retreat or taking advantage of something like Richmond Hill or what's
Mhm.
the other place on River Road.
Where the Episcopalians go.
Yeah. I can't think. Yeah, on River
Yeah.
Road. Yeah, of those experiences, making people aware of those experiences.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
Well, and again, and I think this, I'll this is part of the reason why. Our Sunday mornings are still segregated, right? I mean, because people need to share and experience and embody this trust with people who are with them, who are with them in what they're in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, like you mentioned, the hush harbor is different than the church,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you're there with the people who are experiencing a certain thing,
Certain things, certain reality. Yeah.
and what you share there, again, it's a recognition of the interdependence and being in a place and understanding what people are going through together,
Yeah.
And we just have to be honest about the fact that in different churches, we're in different places, and we haven't got to the place yet of, finding ourselves and putting ourselves, if we need to, in places that in order to understand, in order to feel alongside, in order to, if
And I
nothing
guess
else,
that's the
just be
vision.
in solidarity,
And I guess that's the vision. That's the prayer of what hopefully Juneteenth will teach us, that we're going to have this. As like CNN's having this celebration constant night. There's been events, I'm sure, in your community in Richmond, but that we just don't let it stop there.
Right.
We don't let it stop there. That we find ways. And I think not Carter, the other commentator, what's her last name? Case.
Oh, Case Winters.
Yeah. She talks about that. And she has a section on this, reflecting on this text. She talks about plurality. That we find a way to recognize that that there are. I guess there's more. That's more that we share than there is that divides us.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I guess I struggle with why here in Richmond, why churches don't come together to work together to solve problems such as issues on the South Side or or whatever. That I guess it's some of his ego that, if I'm pastor of this church and in the street, that I have my kingdom and he or she has their kingdom. But how do we get past that to maybe form even joint ministries together to
Right. Yeah.
serve people?
Yeah. I mean, I know like there are some, I mean, like the Virginia Interfaith Center, does some lobbying kind of work and policy kind of stuff
Yeah.
that brings people together. But it's kind of broader than, direct community impact like you're talking about, I mean, it does obviously, if they get whatever, voter rights more free, I mean, that impacts community, but not in that direct way you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I know like, trying to remember if it was called. I'm not going to remember the name of it, but they get a lot. They get a lot of churches together, and they kind of pick an issue. Then they have that big Nehemiah action. I don't know if if you're familiar with that. Okay. But it's actually a pretty interesting. It's an interesting model. But again, it's more like, they might choose education and then focus on one particular policy thing, or they might choose homelessness or something, and then try to pick a very specific policy in order to, chase it down.
Yeah.
But, the big actions are they have a kind of a rally where they call all the churches together, and it's kind of like a worship service. And it's a pretty cool deal because, there's, I mean, it's a lot of different people represented, a lot of different congregations represented. Yeah. But yeah, I think on that very specific neighborhood to neighborhood kind of way that you could come together doesn't happen very often.
Not very often at all. I remember this is several years ago. A friend of mine, he actually worked for some association of the Southern Baptist Convention, and he was housed at First Baptist Church in South Richmond, where I think First Baptist was providing the space for him to operate, and maybe Southern Baptist were providing the resources, and he did some community ministry, which I thought was at least a start on cooperation and collaboration. We just need so much more of that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There is a really good organization here in town that I think that they're kind of they've been around for a while, but I think they're at a good place that could go and do some good stuff. They have a focus on environmental racism, a focus on education stuff, and then they all have a whole focus on trying to work with and change the justice, justice or injustice system, depending on what your experience is. Right? But yeah, I don't. It's I'm just now kind of getting it in, understanding of it. But there's always something around. It just kind of has to be, like you're saying, has to be developed and grown. And it's hard because a lot of churches now are just trying to survive.
Yeah, it's true. There's a lot of churches coming out the pandemic that are dealing with some.
Well, I mean, actually, that's probably where maybe we should end there. This is the word I think maybe for churches, is those who gain their life will lose it.
Yeah.
And those who lose their life for my name's sake.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because
I remember when I used to teach discipleship a long time ago, I used to show this video to folks, and one of the things the author would talk about was about maintenance. He said, where maintenance is important, but if you're so concerned about maintenance, then that's what Jesus is talking about. That you forget what your focus really should be, and then you lose yourself.
you kept yourself alive,
Yeah.
but in the process,
You lost yourself.
yeah,
You lost
exactly.
yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and not going to point in your fingers, at all. But that's just a reality we're in right now, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. Exactly.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
all
So,
right. Well,
are
we
you gonna
can't
are
go
you
anywhere but condemnation from there.
yeah, yeah.
What
So are you gonna
was
be
that? Sorry. What was
broadcasting live Sunday, or is this gonna be
part of it Saturday? Part of it'll be part of the installation will be broadcast. On the face. I'm thinking probably go on my Facebook page and the church's Facebook page for my installation, and then Sunday is always up on the church's Facebook and YouTube.
what
So
time is Saturday?
Saturday, like the part that'll be streamed will probably start about 1.
I have a funeral to go to at 1. So okay, I'll miss
Yeah,
that.
but we
So
can
Sunday, what time?
Sunday morning is at 9:30. Well,
9.
actually, you know what? It's 8:30 your time.
So you're wait, you're an hour behind me?
No,
Ahead of me?
wait. It's
No, for me it's
10:30 your
8:45.
time.
For you
Sorry.
it's what?
It's 10:30 your time. It's 9:30 my time on Sunday
Okay.
morning.
Okay.
And so then it's 2:00 your time on Saturday.
2:00. Okay. Okay. And I have a funeral Saturday, but Sunday will be what time for you?
10:30 is 9:30 my time, 10:30 your time.
Okay, now it'll be on your YouTube.
Yeah, either the
YouTube?
church's YouTube or the church's Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Send me a reminder, especially about I have to go to a funeral Saturday,
Yeah.
but send me a reminder about Sunday so I'll remember to.
Well, and the Saturday should be up there. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Even after it'll stick
Afterwards.
around.
Okay. I can
Yeah.
see it
So
afterwards.
if you miss it, you can always go back.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
congratulations.
Yeah. Just they let it happen even 2 years down the road.
Congratulations.
So.
Marcy and Danita, they're coming up.
Marcy, Danita, and Cheryl. Do you know
Okay.
Cheryl?
She's been on, right?
Yeah, I think. Well, she's been on maybe once. I think she came on, but she's been in the little chat for before.
Okay. Okay.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Mark. Well,
Okay.
good talking to you.
Good talking to you, and just shoot me that reminder for Saturday and Sunday.
I'll do that. Yeah, what I'm going to do is just like I do for this, where I create an event.
Okay.
I think I'm going to do the same for the installation and the
Okay.
and Sunday service. So I'll send you those links when they pop up. After
Okay.
I do the event, I'll send you the link.
Okay, and next Monday is I haven't looked. I look what the lectionary text is next Monday.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I think it's right. It's in Matthew 11. I can't remember. I know why. I don't know. I don't know because I'm not preaching.
Okay.
I'm off next Sunday, so I'm not paying attention.
You're not preaching your own installation, right?
No.
That's about Sunday after next.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, it's the second. I'm not preaching the second.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
So I don't remember what the text is actually.
You're not. Are you not preaching? Are you preaching your own installation? You have a guest minister.
Well, the idea originally was that I had a couple texts that I was going to read, and then I was going to engage Danita and Martha Rollins in a conversation.
Okay.
And they were going to kind of offer a testimony, instead of a sermon.
Okay.
But Martha is moving, out to her farmhouse in Martinsville.
Okay.
Like this week or something like that. So she said she didn't think she could make it,
Okay.
So she's going to record a little something
and send it to you. Okay.
Yeah, and then I'll play that, and then I'll just ask Danita a couple questions, and we'll just do it that way.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
Good stuff, man.
You got to make something up, you got to do what you can.
Again, yeah. Well, congratulations, Darren. I'm happy for you, and look forward to seeing at least see. Yeah. I'll catch Saturday, and I'll hopefully catch Sunday live.
I wish I could. I wish I could mail you some of the barbecue we're having on
That's so
Saturday.
good. You said 10:45 my time, right?
On Sunday morning, it'd be about it's 10:30, but your
10:30.
time
Okay.
on Sunday. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'll see you later.
All right, Darren. Take care.